Palworld's latest title from Pocket Pair dropped on Steam's Early Access and Xbox Game Pass a day or so ago from this recording. I had dived headfirst to see if Palworld is truly worth the hype, and we need to see what this creature taming, survival, resource management hybrid has to offer. After a solid 3 hours of game time, I'm completely addicted to this game. Right now, I have a distinct urge to either befriend or enslave, depending on the mood you're in, the next adorable pal that I meet. Now, I do want to talk about a little bit of an overview of the gameplay of like what's the initial things you guys will expect. At first glance, Palworld seems like a familiar blend of Pokemon and Stardew Valley. However, Palworld within the first hour shows players why it can be its own niche with the quirky charm and some familiar mechanics from other survival crafting games. Palworld opening minutes of gameplay left me stunned with how easy yet in-depth the tutorial was, therefore making it very beginner friendly for players who are new to survival games. There's little to no confusion when running through the progression of Palworld. As soon as you begin in your new world, you're met with understanding the game's core gameplay mechanics like crafting, capturing pals, building bases, and taking down the pals themselves. This right here is the overall gameplay loop that kept me wanting more and made it quite difficult to stop playing. The atmosphere and story alone is something like every survival game. You end up in a random world you're not familiar with and you must rebuild yourself, but this time, other than being a horror game like The Forest, or we have the upcoming game Enshrouded or something like Nightingale, this time we are in a world that is inhabited, this island inhabited by these creatures called pals. The game's technical performance though was pretty okay. I had a couple of crashes like 2 to 4 times during my initial playthrough. It was nothing severe, but it definitely did kind of ruin the moment just a little bit. But if I can take away the crashes that I was having, this game is outright amazing. I do want to take note for you guys is that my entire first impressions is based off the Game Pass version of Palworld, which is the free variant. A lot of my other friends said when they were playing on Steam, they didn't really run into too many crashes. I don't know if it's an Xbox thing or whatever the case may be. I do know that there's another huge difference between having the free version of Palworld and having the paid $30 version of Palworld. Is dedicated servers. Dedicated servers is only on Steam. So if you wanted to be able to, have your very own server, then yes, you must buy the $30 Steam variant. If you don't care about the dedicated servers, then the Game Pass variant is also just as well up for grabs as well. But I do want to do a little bit of a deeper dive into the core gameplay loops and kind of explain a little bit of what's exactly going on. Core gameplay loop revolves around befriending or capturing, depending on your morals, these pal creatures. Unlike Pokemon's gentle Pokeball throwing, pal takes a bit of a more, an aggressive approach, right? You can fling capture pods, trap them in cages, or even knock them unconscious with a well-placed whack from the good old-fashioned baseball bat that I was able to craft with damage output, to increase the damage output from your basic stick. And yes, this game is a bit more brutal than the friendship is magic approach, but it definitely adds layers of grit and strategy to the taming process. So I know if you're not too great at dealing with animals, PETA, oh boy, they will be all over this. But it's not too bad. It seems like that on the surface, but overall, it's kind of one of the most cutest things seeing the pals start building for you, and like they get happy when you feed them. Like, it's cute. It's like having a bunch of animals that's ready to take down an entire army for you. But more on the pals becomes a delightful mix of Pokemon style fights and a sense of Monster Hunter-esque fighting and resource gathering. You must weaken a pal in combat, just like in Pokemon. Then you throw your pal spear, your Pokeball, to capture them. And another major gameplay mechanic is the use of the pals, in which the pals help players work on their base. Each pal has specific benefits to help the player. Like there's the chicken pal called Chipiki. that can lay eggs. Lamb dolls, which is the sheep looking Pokemon guys, help with overall building and crafting. Then there's Cativa, which basically its main job is help mining ore, and so on and so forth. Every POW has its own specific thing that it's good at, and it will let you know what they're good at in their description of the POW deck or the Pokedeck. You'll notice that there's definitely a lot of similarities to Pokemon, like the electric type guy. I'm gonna throw him up here. He looks like Electabuzz. But other than the blaring resemblances from Pokemon to Palworld, it definitely has its own foot and setting into the door. Essentially, once captured, the palace becomes the player's workforce and army at the exact same time, as you can use them to help battle the other pals and as well as make sure the production of resources is at its peak. But between the charming cartoonish visuals, the creature taming mechanics, Palworld shoots to be a wild, weird, and surprisingly deep game that I feel like outweighs the initial claims that it's just Pokemon with guns. Being an early access game with how successful this from what I've played so far, I genuinely believe Palworld deserves all of the hype that it's getting and adding innovation to the survival crafting genre of games. With it selling up to 1 million copies within the very first 8 hours of release and having positive ratings throughout through Microsoft Store, through Steam, Metacritic has very good ratings on it. This is probably one of the most successful indie titles we've had to drop since games like Sea of Stars, Lethal Company, and a couple other ones as well. But my final verdict in this for Palworld, in the world of Pokemon and not much competition to the monster collecting giant, we have games like Temtem, which is a MMORPG variant, but with the Palworld, it's quite different, with it being a breath of fresh air in the monster taming genre. The charming visuals, the unique blend of mechanics, and the ethical treatment of the POWs makes it an awesome experience to play. Palworld is currently free on Game Pass, or like I said, $30 on Steam. Palworld is definitely worth checking out if you're up for a fun survival crafting game. If you like indie games, and I have a perfect must-have indie games list for you to play here. I have it in the cart sitting here, and it's always been your host, KISDTV, here at Chaotic Inc., signing out. Peace.
Make a manifest. I don't sleep, that's so weak, don't plan to rest. I'm from a hood where you die if you don't pack a vest. No culinary degrees, but whipping crack the best. Chefing, hard times taught lessons. Praying every night to pull up in park Benzes. What's my home is what you call trenches. You wouldn't last a day seeing life through all lenses. It's all tension, no sun, and rain and plenty. Full-time job, still can never make a penny. I ain't